The bass shook the floor. Lights flashed over the crowd, and Marco DeLuca was supposed to be thinking about business, not about a woman in a green dress. But that was before he saw her. From the VIP balcony, he had the whole nightclub under him. The bar, the booths, the dance floor full of bodies and drinks and noise. He was there for a meeting, for a signature and a handshake that would change the flow of money through the city. Instead, his eyes locked on one point in the sea of people. She was in the middle of the dance floor, surrounded by two friends. The dress she wore was green, tight to her curves, covered in sequins that caught the light every time she moved. She laughed at something her friend said, head thrown slightly back, hair brushing her shoulders. Marco lost the last line of the conversation happening at his table. "Boss?" one of his men said, waiting for his answer. Marco blinked once, then looked back at his right-hand man, Ryan. "Repeat that," Marco said. Ryan followed his gaze for a second and noticed the woman in green, but he was smart enough not to comment. He went back to the numbers, the offer on the table, the split of territory. Marco listened, gave a few short answers, and closed the deal in less than 10 minutes. It was clean, efficient, the way he liked it. But his mind kept drifting back to the dance floor. When the meeting ended, the other man shook his hand with nervous respect and left with his bodyguards. Ryan stayed, watching his boss lean on the balcony railing, dark eyes fixed on the same spot. "Want me to check something?" Ryan asked. Marco did not answer. He watched as the woman turned in the crowd, the green sequins catching blue and purple lights. Her friends were loud, carefree. She moved with them, not like someone dancing to be watched, but like someone who actually liked the music. He noticed little things. She kept her drink close to her chest in the crowd. When a drunk guy passed too near, she stepped back and frowned, and her friend pulled her to the other side. She was careful, alert, not naive. Marco felt something he had not felt in a long time. Curiosity. "Who is she?" he murmured. Ryan heard it anyway. "I can find out." Marco straightened and adjusted the cuffs of his black shirt. "No," he said. "Not yet." He left the balcony and walked down the private stairs that led to the side of the dance floor. People moved out of his way without even realizing why. It was not just the broad shoulders or the tailored black shirt rolled to his forearms. It was the way he walked through a room like he owned the floor under every footstep. He stepped into the crowd, ignoring the looks, the hands that reached out to touch him, the smiles that followed him. He had seen that all his life. Women leaning toward him, not away. Men avoiding his eyes. But she did not see him coming. Not at first. He stopped a few steps away, watching her with a focus that made the rest of the club blur. Up close, she was even more striking, light catching the warm tone of her skin, a soft glow of highlighter on her cheekbones, lips painted in a deeper color that matched the confidence in her posture. Marco waited for the right moment, for a beat in the song when her friends turned to each other, when she was just a little bit free from the circle they made. Then he stepped closer. She turned, and their eyes met for the first time. There was no instant spark in her gaze, no recognition. She looked at him like he was just another man who had walked too close in a crowded club. "Hey," he said, voice low but clear. Her brows lifted, just slightly. "Hi. My name is Marco," he said. "You look like you're having more fun than anyone else in here." It was a simple line, not something he practiced, just the truth. She tilted her head, as if surprised that he noticed that, and not her body or her dress. "I am," she said. It was a long week. Her voice was warm, but her tone was not an invitation. She took half a step back so she could still see him and her friends at the same time. One of them leaned toward her and shouted in her ear, "You okay?" She nodded. "I'm fine." Her friend gave Marco a quick look from head to toe, measured him in 2 seconds, then turned back to the music. "What's your name?" Marco asked. "Ava," she said. "Ava." He repeated it in his mind once. It fit. "Nice to meet you, Ava," he said. "Can I buy you a drink?" She shifted her weight from one leg to the other, the sequins on her dress catching red and gold light. "I already have one," she said. lifting her glass a little. And I'm with my friends. Most women would have used that as a soft way to make him insist, to start a game. She used it like a line in the sand. Marco smiled. Not the dangerous smile he gave his enemies, but the one that came easier around people who were not in his world. I see that, he said. They're lucky. You probably dragged them out of their apartments tonight. She huffed once, a not quite laugh. Actually, they dragged me, she said. I almost stayed home. He took a small step closer, careful not to touch her. Then I should thank them, he said. Her eyes narrowed a little. The compliment was clear. Too clear. Listen, Marco. She glanced toward her friends, then back at him. I'm just here to dance and relax. I'm not looking for anything. It was a direct answer. No flirting around it. No play. He was not used to that. Marco nodded slowly, but he did not move back. Dancing and relaxing is allowed with conversation, he said. Maybe for you, she said. For me, it usually turns into someone insisting when I already said no. The music changed to a faster song. Her friends cheered and started to move again. The crowd grew tighter around them. A shoulder bumped Marco from behind, but the guy stepped away fast when he saw who he had touched. Ava did not notice the man's change in posture. She noticed only Marco's eyes still on her. Don't worry, Marco said. I heard you. He could have left then. That would have been the smart thing to do. A simple, nice to meet you, and he would go back to the balcony, to his bottle of whiskey, to the world he understood. Instead, he stayed. He watched as she turned back to her friends, joining their circle again. The green dress flashed and moved with the rhythm. Every few seconds her gaze checked where he was, just to make sure he stayed at a distance. He did, for a while. Marco told himself he was just watching the room, that it was natural to keep an eye on everything inside his club, that it had nothing to do with the woman in the middle of the dance floor. But every time someone got too close to her, his chest tightened. He saw a guy try to slip behind her, drink in hand, eyes too fixed on her body. Before the man could press forward, Ava's friend stepped in, pulled her to the side, and gave the guy a look that sent him away. She could handle herself. He liked that. Maybe that was why he moved again. The next time the song slowed down, he crossed the space between them. This time, he did not come from the side. He came from behind, careful with his steps, letting the beat of the music hide his approach. When he was close enough, he leaned in, but still left a small space between his chest and her back. I meant what I said. He spoke near her ear. You stand out down here. She stiffened, then turned fast. Her hand came up, pressing against his chest to push him back. He had barely lifted his hand, fingers reaching toward her face, when her eyes hardened. Don't, she said. The word cut through the music. Marco froze. He looked down at her hand on his chest. She was not shaking. She was not nervous. She was simply done. I told you I'm not interested, she said, raising her voice just enough for him to hear over the music. I came to dance, not to be touched by a stranger who won't listen. Around them, the crowd shifted. A few people noticed the tension. One of her friends moved closer, ready to step between them if she needed help. No one had ever put a hand on him like that in the middle of his own club, in front of his people, and told him no so clearly. Marco felt Ryan's eyes on him from the edge of the floor. His men were always near when he was in public. They waited for a signal, any sign that their boss wanted them to step in. He gave them nothing. Instead, he took a slow step back, hands where she could see them. You're right, he said simply. I didn't listen. Her chest moved up and down with each fast breath. The lights washed her face in blue, then pink, then gold. Her jaw was tight, but there was no fear in her eyes, only anger. And something else. Disappointment. I don't care who you are, Ava said. I said no. Respect that. A small, sharp sentence. It landed harder than he expected. For a second, he wanted to tell her exactly who he was. That this was his club. That people here worked for him, kept their heads down for him, pushed others out of his way for him. But that felt small in front of the way she was looking at him. He nodded once. Understood, he said. He did not try to touch her again. He did not lean in. He just stepped aside and left a clear path for her and her friends. Ava hesitated, as if she could not believe he had backed off so easily. Then she turned away from him, grabbed her friend's hand, and moved deeper into the crowd. Marco watched her go. Ryan appeared at his side a moment later. "You want me to have security remove her?" Ryan asked quietly. "Or him?" He jerked his chin toward a man who was staring at Ava from the bar. Marco's eyes narrowed. His first instinct was control, to move pieces around the board until he felt safe, until no one could get near what had caught his attention. But she had just told him she did not want anyone doing that. "No," Marco said. "No one touches her." "No one touches her, friends. Just make sure nobody bothers them." "So we do watch her," Ryan said. Marco ignored the comment. He walked back to the side of the floor, then up the private steps, leaving the noise below. From the balcony, he could see the whole dance floor again. Ava's green dress moved through the crowd like a small bright signal. She laughed with her friends. She danced. She did not look up. He should have turned away. He should have gone home, to his penthouse with its glass walls and locked doors, to the quiet that waited for him high above the city. Instead, he stayed. Every time she moved toward the bar, he watched. Every time a stranger got too close, he felt his jaw tighten. When a man tried to step behind her again, one of his security guards appeared from the side, pretending to be just another customer, and blocked the man with his body. Ava never saw it. She only saw her own small circle of light and music. Near the end of the night, she and her friends finally left the dance floor. They sat at a high table near the back to drink water and take a break. One of the women pulled out her phone. Another changed her heels for flats she had stuffed in her bag. Ava rubbed the back of her neck and looked around the club as if waking up from a long dream. For 1 second her eyes went up and met Marco's again. He was not close enough for her to read his expression, but he saw the way her lips pressed together. She turned away first. "I want to go home," she told her friends. They finished their drinks, grabbed their things, and headed for the exit. From the balcony, Marco watched the green dress disappear into the hallway that led to the street. The music kept playing. The lights kept flashing. The club kept moving without her. He stayed there, hands braced on the glass, feeling something unfamiliar in his chest. It was not simple attraction. He had lived with that all his life. This was sharper, a question that would not leave him alone. She said no. She pushed him away. She did not care who he was. Hours later, when the club closed and the last drunk echo faded from the floor, Marco was still thinking about the way her hand had felt against his chest. About the sound of her voice when she said she did not care who he was. In a world where everyone wanted something from him, she had wanted nothing. He walked through the empty club with Ryan at his side. Workers wiped down tables, collected glasses, turned off lights. The dance floor was just a dark space now. "You've been quiet," Ryan said. Marco did not slow his steps. "Long night. Want me to forget about her?" Ryan asked. "We don't have to know her name. We don't have to know anything." Marco stopped in the middle of the floor. The silence around him felt thick after all the noise. He knew he should say yes. He should let the night stay what it was, a memory of a green dress and a woman who had told him no. Instead, he heard himself say, "Find out who she is." Ryan raised his brows. "You sure?" Marco looked at the spot where she had stood hours earlier, laughing with her friends, before he stepped into her space and turned her night into something else. No one rejected him and walked away like that. No one stayed in his head like that. "I'm sure," he said. Ryan nodded once. "I'll talk to the manager. Check the cameras. Discreet." Marco headed for the back door that led to the private garage, his mind already moving through possibilities. He told himself it was simple curiosity, wounded pride, an ego that did not like being hit in public. But as he stepped into the cool night air and the city lights hit his face, another thought slipped in, quiet but persistent. What kind of woman says no to a man like him and does not look back? And how far was he willing to go to hear her say something different? The question followed him into the dark car, into the ride through sleeping streets, and all the way up to the silent penthouse where he should have forgotten her. He did not. And while Ava Collins threw her green dress over a chair in her small apartment across town, promising herself she would never step into that club again, Marco DeLuca was already planning the first move in a game he did not yet understand, and had no idea how it would change both of their lives. Marco DeLuca had spent years mastering control over people, over cities, over entire networks that depended on his decisions. But he couldn't control the way his thoughts kept circling back to the woman in the green sequin dress. Ava Collins. The name reached him the next afternoon. Ryan delivered it with a short nod, along with a discreet profile. Where she worked, where she lived, nothing invasive. Just enough for safety, enough to confirm she was not connected to any enemy, any rival family, any dangerous pattern. Marco told himself he needed that information only to calm his mind, but the truth pressed deeper. He wanted to see her again, not because she rejected him, though that still burned hotter than he expected, but because something about the way she held her ground lingered in his chest. No fear, no flattery, no hidden agenda. It was unnervingly rare. By evening, he found himself walking through his penthouse with restless steps. The city stretched beneath his windows, a maze of lights and traffic. He usually found calm in that view. Tonight it felt hollow. He opened a bottle of whiskey he didn't really want, took one sip, and set it down untouched. She said no, and she meant it. The memory hit with an uncomfortable mix of frustration and admiration. Her voice had been steady, her posture firm, her hand pushing him back with no hesitation. Most people froze when he approached. They softened their tone. They adjusted their posture. They waited for his reaction. Ava didn't. He replayed the moment when she glared at him under the flicker of club lights, angry, but not intimidated. A woman like her didn't stumble into someone like him on purpose, which meant she wasn't looking for trouble. Yet trouble was exactly what he brought with him everywhere he went. Marco rubbed a hand over his jaw and exhaled slowly. He shouldn't seek her out. He knew that. He also knew he was going to do it anyway. 2 days later, he walked back into the same nightclub. Ryan didn't question it, at least not out loud. His men kept their distance. Marco stepped inside and let the familiar noise swallow him. But instead of heading to the VIP balcony, he walked toward the bar. The music was different tonight, lighter, less intense. He scanned the dance floor once. She wasn't there. He hated the stab of disappointment. "You looking for someone?" the bartender asked, cleaning a glass. Marco didn't answer. He ordered a drink and leaned against the counter, watching the entrance. He told himself he would stay 10 minutes. If she didn't walk in, he would leave. It was a reasonable plan, controlled, logical. Then, green. Not the same dress, but a similar shade, a soft top with subtle shimmer. She stepped inside with the same 2 friends from before. Her hair was down, loose waves brushing her shoulders. The moment she looked toward the dance floor, her entire expression softened, like she loved the sound of music more than the chaos around it. Marco felt his chest tighten. She hadn't noticed him yet. He remained still, watching the way she laughed at something her friend whispered in her ear, watching the way she carried herself, confident but not arrogant, alert but not anxious. She was the type of woman who didn't need attention to fill the room. She simply fit. Then her eyes moved in his direction, stopped, held. A flash of recognition spread across her face, followed by something colder. Marco straightened slowly, not moving toward her. She broke the eye contact first. Her friends didn't notice anything, but she did. The little shift in her posture told him she remembered everything about the last night. The push, the rejection, the anger. Good. If she hadn't cared at all, that would have bothered him more. A few minutes passed before he took a cautious step toward the dance floor. Not close enough to corner her, not close enough to pressure her, just enough to let her know he wasn't pretending their first meeting didn't happen. She approached the bar with her friends, ordering drinks. He stayed a safe distance behind them, letting the noise swallow the space between them. When she turned and saw him again, her expression tightened. She handed one of her friends a drink, then stepped aside. She didn't avoid him, but she didn't invite him either. Marco raised his hand slightly, no touching, no approaching too quickly. Ava, he said, his voice low but steady. She sighed softly, a mix of annoyance and exhaustion. Marco, I shouldn't have touched you last time. She blinked once. He continued, You told me no. I didn't listen. That was my mistake. Her lips parted slightly, surprised by the apology. I'm not used to people ignoring boundaries, she said. Neither am I, he answered. Which makes it even worse that I crossed yours. She studied him carefully as if trying to decide whether he meant it. I'm not interested, she reminded him firmly. I heard that, he said. Tonight I'm not here to insist on anything. A beat of silence. Then, almost reluctantly, she asked, So why are you here? He could have lied. Said business. Said coincidence. Said anything to protect his pride. But she didn't strike him as the kind of woman who respected lies. I came because I wanted to see you again, he said simply. Her breath hitched, barely visible, but enough for him to catch it. She looked away, shaking her head softly. I don't want trouble. You won't get trouble from me. That's what men say before the trouble starts. Marco suppressed a small, involuntary smile. Fair. She glanced back at her friends. They were already returning to the dance floor, waving for her to join them. I need to go, she said. He stepped aside, clearing the path immediately. Go. She hesitated, just a second, then walked past him. The faint scent of her perfume drifted with her movement. Soft, fresh, not overly sweet. It stayed with him long after she walked away. From the distance, he watched her join her friends again. She danced, but she kept checking the corners of the room, maybe subconsciously searching for him, maybe making sure he wasn't too close. He kept his distance, but he never lost sight of her. And that was when he saw it. A man, tall, slightly drunk, cut through the crowd with too much focus. His eyes tracked Ava, not the group. He made a straight line toward her, weaving between bodies with bad intentions written in the way he leaned forward. Ryan appeared at Marco's side. You want me to? No. Marco's hand lifted slightly. Wait. Ava turned at the last second, noticing the man's approach. Her expression dropped. Annoyance, not fear. She stepped back, but the man stepped forward, slurring something she couldn't hear over the music. Her friend tried to pull her aside, but his hand reached toward her arm. Marco was already moving. He didn't shove the man. He didn't start a fight. He simply stepped between them, placing himself like a wall that the drunk stranger bounced off of. The man blinked up at Marco and instantly paled. Sorry, man, I didn't know. Marco didn't speak. He didn't need to. The stranger backed away fast, disappearing into the crowd. Ava stared at him, breath unsteady. You said you wouldn't cause trouble, she said carefully. I didn't, Marco replied. He did. I could have handled him. I know, he said, and he meant it. But you shouldn't have to. Her lips parted slightly, something flickering in her eyes. Annoyance mixed with something warmer she didn't want to admit. Marco. He leaned in just enough for her to hear him over the music, but he didn't touch her. I'm not asking for anything, he said quietly. Not a drink, not a dance, not a chance. I just want to make sure you're okay. Her heartbeat visibly softened in her chest. Not because she wanted him, not yet, but because he wasn't pushing this time. He was simply there, protective, not possessive, present, not overwhelming, maybe even trying. You don't even know me, she said. I'm trying to, Marco answered. Her breath caught again, faint, but real. Before she could say anything else, her friends called her name, forcing her to turn. She looked back at Marco once more, eyes conflicted. Then she walked away, and Marco let her go. But when she reached the edge of the dance floor, she glanced over her shoulder, only for a second, only long enough for him to see the beginning of something shifting inside her. Curiosity, interest, a question she wasn't ready to say out loud. Marco exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of something new forming between them. Slow, fragile, but impossible to ignore. Ryan stepped beside him. Boss? Marco's eyes stayed on Ava. We're not done. And just as he said it, a new figure slipped into the club's entrance. Someone Marco recognized instantly. Someone from his world. Someone who should never be near Ava. Ryan stiffened. That's not good. Marco's jaw clenched. Ava hadn't seen the man yet. But if she did, things would change faster than she was ready for. Marco moved one step forward, instinct tightening his chest. Whatever happened next, he would not let danger reach her. Not now, not ever. And that truth scared him more than any rival ever had. The moment Marco saw the man walk into the club, a man from his world, from the wrong side of his business, he felt every muscle tighten. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't casual. And it definitely wasn't safe. The man's name was Donovan Price. He didn't belong anywhere near Ava. Marco didn't move immediately. He watched Donovan scan the crowd with a slow, assessing stare, as if searching for someone specific. His hands curled at his sides, but he forced himself to stay still. Not here, not in front of her, not in a place where she already thought he could bring trouble. But his hesitation lasted only a second. Ava was still dancing with her friends, suddenly unaware of how quickly the atmosphere around her had changed. If Donovan saw her, if he recognized her from anything related to Marco, things could spiral. Ryan, Marco murmured, take care of him. Ryan didn't need more instructions. He walked toward Donovan, intercepting him before he reached the dance floor. From above, Marco watched their conversation. Ryan's posture was firm, calm, professional. Donovan's smile was careless, mocking. Marco didn't like that smile. But when Ryan subtly redirected Donovan toward the bar, Marco let out a quiet breath. Crisis avoided. For now. He turned back to Ava, and that was when he realized her eyes were on him. She wasn't dancing anymore. Her friends were still moving with the crowd, but she had stepped slightly aside, watching Marco with a puzzled expression. She could tell something was wrong. He didn't want her to see this part of his life. Not yet. Not like this. So he did the hardest thing for someone like him. He walked away from the danger instead of toward it. He stepped off the dance floor, up the private stairs, and into the quieter part of the club. Ryan joined him minutes later. Handled, Ryan said. He won't bother her. He thinks you're here on business. Marco nodded once. Good. But the knot in his chest didn't loosen. He had two choices now. Ignore this strange pull he felt toward Ava, or get close enough that he could protect her properly. Both options were dangerous. Neither felt possible to resist. Ava didn't leave the club until almost 2 in the morning. Marco watched from the balcony as she grabbed her jacket, hugged her friends, and walked toward the exit. He could have followed her. He could have caught up. He didn't. He forced himself to stay put. He didn't want her to think he was waiting in the shadows like some kind of stalker. The last thing he wanted was to scare her. But when she stepped outside and a group of drunk men staggered near her, he moved so fast Ryan didn't have time to say his name. Marco stopped just inside the doorway, hidden enough not to interrupt her night, close enough to intervene if needed. Ava noticed the men, gave them a look that said she wanted no conversation, and crossed the street quickly. Her friends followed, laughing loudly, unaware of the tension around them. Only when she reached her rideshare and got inside safely did Marco let himself breathe. He stayed there, watching the car drive away into the bright city night. Ryan leaned against the doorway beside him. Boss, you're doing the opposite of ignoring her. Marco didn't deny it. The next morning, Ava woke up with sore feet and a faint headache. She spent half an hour scrolling through her camera roll, laughing at the blurry photos her friends had taken. She remembered dancing. She remembered the near argument with the drunk stranger. She remembered Marco, his apology, his calm voice, the way he stepped between her and the man without touching her, the way he looked at her as if he wanted to know her, not control her. She didn't trust him, but she didn't fear him either, and that was confusing. She spent the rest of the day trying not to think about him. She organized her apartment, went grocery shopping, even met a friend for lunch. None of it worked. That night, while she folded her laundry, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hi, it's Marco. If this is a bad time, I'll try later. Ava froze. She shouldn't answer. She absolutely shouldn't. But she also remembered the way he had backed away without argument, the way his voice had softened when she said she wasn't interested, the way he protected her without making it a performance. So she typed, Ava, how did you get my number? The reply came fast. Marco, through the club's security. They owed me a favor. You can block me if you want. That annoyed her, but it also made sense. He hadn't lied. He hadn't sugarcoated it. Ava, you can't just do that. Marco, you're right. I won't do it again. She stared at the message, surprised. Then another came. Marco, I want to apologize properly. Not in a club. Not with music over our heads. Her heart tapped against her ribs. Ava, for what? Marco, for crossing a line, and for looking at you like I owned the moment. She swallowed. His honesty made it harder to stay angry. He wrote again, Marco, let me make it right. Coffee, somewhere public. You choose the place, the time, the table. If you say no, I'll disappear from your life. No pressure. Ava let out a slow breath. He wasn't pushing. He wasn't repeating the same mistakes. He wasn't pretending to be someone else. She typed back, Ava, 1 coffee. Marco didn't respond immediately. It took nearly a full minute. And when his message arrived, it was simple. Marco, thank you. They met the next afternoon in a quiet cafe in Midtown. Clean windows, soft music, the faint smell of freshly baked bread. Ava chose a corner booth. Public. Neutral. Safe. Marco entered 5 minutes late, something she didn't expect. Men like him didn't arrive late. They made the world wait for them. But he looked almost nervous. Only in the way he exhaled when he saw her. In the way his shoulders dropped slightly, as if relieved she had actually come. He sat across from her, hands on the table, palms visible. A gesture of respect she hadn't seen before. I'm not here to convince you of anything, Marco said quietly. I just want to talk. She nodded, arms folded across her chest. I still don't know who you are. You don't need to know everything, he said. Just enough to understand I'm not trying to drag you into anything. But you keep finding me. His jaw tightened slightly. That I can't explain perfectly. Try. He met her eyes fully. No smirk, no arrogance. You're different, he said, and I don't meet different very often. Her breath hitched. She didn't reply. She reached for her iced coffee instead, needing something to anchor her. Marco watched her for a moment, then spoke again. I crossed a line at the club. You were right to be angry. And if you want me to keep my distance after today, I will. Ava lowered her cup slowly. Why does this sound like you're rehearsing something? Because I am, he admitted. I don't do this. I don't ask for chances. I'm used to people wanting something from me before I even say a word. Ava blinked, taken aback by the honesty. What do you think I want from you? She asked. He shook his head. Nothing. That's the problem. Their eyes locked. For a moment, neither of them looked away. Then she said quietly, I don't want to be watched, not followed, not protected without asking. I don't want someone who steps into every part of my life. Marco looked down at his hands. I know, he said. Do you? Ava pressed. Marco inhaled slowly. I'm trying. Her heartbeat softened. For the first time, he wasn't acting like a man who was used to control. He was acting like someone who didn't want to lose something fragile growing between them. Ava didn't trust him yet, but she didn't distrust him like before, and that scared her more than anything. As if reading the shift on her face, Marco leaned back gently. You don't have to decide anything today, he said. We can talk, or sit in silence, whatever you want. She looked at him. Really looked. The strong jaw, the relaxed shoulders, the eyes watching her without expectation. He wasn't pretending to be the perfect man. He was trying to be the right man for her. And that was dangerously convincing. Ava glanced toward the window, then back at him. I don't know where this is going, she said honestly. Neither do I, Marco replied, but I'd like to find out. Before she could answer, her phone buzzed loudly on the table. Ava frowned at the screen. Unknown message. You shouldn't be with him. Her stomach tightened. Marco saw the color drain from her face. What is it? He asked, voice steady but sharp. Ava slowly turned the phone so he could see. The message wasn't from him, and it wasn't a joke. Marco's blood went cold. Someone else was watching her, someone who knew about them, someone who took the first shot before Marco could protect her properly. Ava's voice trembled slightly. Marco, what is happening? Marco didn't look away from the phone. He already knew one thing for certain. Whoever sent that message wasn't going to stop. And that was how their slow, fragile connection turned into something Marco would burn the entire city to protect. Marco stared at the message on Ava's phone long enough for the ice in his drink to melt. You shouldn't be with him. The words were simple. The meaning wasn't. Ava's fingers tightened around the edge of the table. The cafe around them kept moving. People ordering, spoons clinking, quiet conversations floating by. But inside that little corner booth, everything felt too sharp, too focused. Marco, she said quietly. What is this? He forced his jaw to unclench before he answered. I don't know, he said, but I'm going to find out. That's not very comforting. I'm not going to lie to you, he replied. Whoever sent that is either trying to scare you or pull you away from me. She searched his face as if she could read the truth behind his eyes. Can anyone just get my number now? She asked. Because someone knows where I am, who I'm with. Her voice was steady, but he heard the unease underneath it. Marco held out his hand. Can I see your phone? She hesitated, then unlocked it and handed it to him. He read the message again, then checked the number. No name, no history, just a long string of digits that meant nothing on its own. He passed the phone back. Don't answer it, he said. Don't delete it either. So that's it? She asked. Don't answer, don't delete. Pretend it didn't happen. No. His tone stayed calm, but there was a firmer edge now. I'm going to have my people trace it, quietly. Your people. Ava let out a breath. Right. I keep forgetting you're not just some guy from a club. I never said I was just some guy, he answered. I said I don't want to drag you into anything. And yet, here we are. He looked straight at her. We're here because someone else decided to involve you. Her heart kicked a little faster at that. Not because of the threat, but because he sounded more protective than possessive this time. Is this because of what you do? She asked. Is this connected to your own world? He didn't look away. It might be, he said. I have enemies. People who don't like my decisions. People who would rather see me isolated, easier to corner. If they know I care about something, or someone, they might try to use that. Her pulse jumped at the word care, even though she knew he wasn't saying it lightly. So this is a warning, she asked. Stay away from Marco. Or a test, he said, to see how I react. Well, they're doing a good job because I'm uncomfortable. I know. He leaned forward slightly. I'm not going to tell you what to feel. If you walk away now, I'll understand. But if you stay, he paused, choosing his words carefully. If you stay, I will do everything I can to keep you safe, and I will be honest with you, even when the truth is ugly. Ava sat back, letting that sink in. You keep saying stay like I'm already with you, she said. We had one night in a club and one coffee. You don't know me. He nodded once. You're right. I know very little, but I know enough to want more. For a second, neither of them spoke. He watched her fingers play with the edge of her napkin. She watched the way his shoulders stayed loose, even while his eyes stayed sharp. Ava exhaled slowly. What exactly are you asking for? She said. Because if you're asking for anything close to a relationship, I'm not jumping into that with secrets and anonymous messages and people I don't know tracing my phone. I'm not asking you to jump into anything, he said. I'm asking you not to run from me because someone else told you to. Easy for you to say. No, he replied calmly. It's not. She didn't have an answer for that. He leaned back slightly, giving her space. Let me drive you home after this, he said. No detours. No questions, just a ride. I want to make sure you get back safe. After that, if you want distance, I'll respect it. Or you'll have your men sit outside my building in black cars, she said. His lips tugged into a small, tired smile. You'd notice before they even parked. I would, she said, and I would hate it. Then I won't do it, he replied. I can protect you without turning your life into a surveillance movie. Can you? Yes. She looked at him again, searching for any sign of a lie. She didn't see one. All right, Ava said finally. One ride, nothing else. He nodded once. Deal. But he knew the moment he walked her to the car, nothing about this night would feel simple again. The ride was quiet at first. Ava watched the city through the window, the mix of brick buildings and glass towers, the people on sidewalks who had no idea what it meant to sit in the car of a man like Marco De Luca. She had Googled his last name once just out of curiosity. She hadn't found much, nothing obvious, nothing that screamed what he refused to say out loud. But she wasn't stupid. Power like his didn't come from nothing. Does anyone ever tell you no? She asked suddenly. He glanced at her from the driver's seat. Now they do. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have for that question. She sighed softly. I said I don't want to be dragged into your world. And I heard you, he said. But it keeps leaking into my phone, my nights out, my coffee. That part, he admitted, is on me. He stopped at a red light. The glow washed the interior of the car in soft color. For a moment his profile looked less like a man people whispered about, and more like a tired man who hadn't been told the word no enough in his life. Why do you even want this? She asked quietly. You don't need complications. You could be with someone who already accepts whatever comes with you. You mean someone who doesn't ask questions, he said. Something like that. I don't want that, he answered. I've had that. It never lasts. It's like building something on a floor that might crack. This is cracking too, she said, holding up her phone. You see that, right? Yes, he said. And I'm choosing not to walk away. The light turned green. He drove the rest of the way to her street in silence, but it wasn't heavy silence. It was full of unsaid things neither of them knew how to fit into one night. When he pulled up in front of her building, he didn't turn off the engine. He looked at the entrance, then at the dark corners of the block, then back at her. Will you do something for me? He asked. If it's move in with me or quit your job, the answer is no, she said. His mouth curved slightly. Noted. And no, it's smaller than that. She waited. Share your location with Ryan, he said. Just with him. No one else. He's the one I trust with. Everything. If anything feels off, if someone sends more messages, if you see something strange near your building, I want him to know where you are. I want to reach you before they do. She frowned. That sounds a lot like being monitored. It's a safety net, he said simply. You can turn it off any time. I won't ask. I won't check if you did. But I'll sleep better if I know that if you need help, we're not guessing which part of the city you're in. Ava hesitated. Being watched was her biggest fear. Being unprotected was a close second. She opened her phone, scrolled, and then silently handed it to him. Show me how, she said. His fingers brushed hers for half a second before he pulled away. He guided her through the settings, saved Ryan's number, and gave the phone back. You're in control, he said. You share. You stop sharing. No one else touches that. Not even you? She asked. I have other ways to find you if I need to, he said. She raised a brow. He added quickly, joke, mostly. She rolled her eyes, but the corner of her lips lifted. He watched that small movement like it was a reward. Thank you, he said. For what? Handing over part of my privacy? For still being here, he replied. Ava opened the door, then paused with one hand on the handle. This doesn't mean I trust you completely, she said. I don't expect you to, he answered. Trust isn't a switch, it's a list. I plan to fill it. She looked at him for another second, then stepped out of the car. "Good night, Marco." He watched her walk to the door, watched the small movement of her shoulders as she typed in her code, watched the way she glanced around the street once before going inside. Only when she disappeared behind the glass did he let out the breath he'd been holding. His phone buzzed. A message from Ryan. "We traced the number. Burner phone. Bought cash near Donovan's end of the city." Marco's hands tightened around the steering wheel. If Donovan wanted a game, he had just chosen the wrong piece to touch. For the next few days, Marco kept his distance. He didn't show up at the club. He didn't appear unannounced at her job. He didn't flood her with messages. Instead, he sent one in the morning and one at night. Simple. Respectful. "Marco, good morning. Hope work is kind to you today." "Marco, home safe?" Sometimes she answered with one word. Sometimes with a short reply about her day. Sometimes not at all. But she never asked him to stop, and that told him more than any long text would have. Meanwhile, he handled the other side. The threats, the numbers, the quiet investigation into who decided to interfere with his life. He called Donovan to his office under the cover of business. They talked about shipments, routes, money. Donovan joked too easily. He acted like a man who wasn't worried about much. Marco watched him with the same calm he used when counting cards at a table. At the end of the meeting, Marco slid a phone across the desk. "I heard someone bought a burner from your side of town," he said. "Texted the wrong number." Donovan glanced at the screen without flinching. "You know how many burners move through my side?" he said. "You think I have time to send anonymous texts to women who like you?" Marco's jaw tensed at the word women. He didn't correct it. "Maybe not," he said. "But I like to be sure." "Relax," Donovan smirked. "If I wanted to send a message, you'd know." That was the problem. Marco wasn't sure if this was Donovan, or someone under him, or someone else entirely. But until he had proof, he couldn't move, not the way he wanted to. And in the middle of that tension stood Ava. It was Ava who asked to see him next. He didn't expect it. He was in the middle of a late meeting when his phone lit up with her name. "Ava, are you busy?" He excused himself, stepped out into the hallway and called her. "Hey," he said, voice lower than usual. "I didn't say you could call," she said, but there was no real bite to it. "You're right, I'm sorry. Do you want me to hang up?" There was a tiny silence. "No," she said. "I just had a bad day." His chest tightened. "What happened?" "Nothing dramatic," she answered. "Just work. Bills. One of my co-workers made a comment about my mysterious boyfriend I don't have, and I realize my life is on a weird pause, like I'm waiting for something to go wrong." He leaned against the wall, one hand in his pocket. "I don't want to be the reason you feel like that," he said. "I don't know what you are yet," she admitted, "but I know I don't want to sit in my apartment overthinking. So, if you're not busy, maybe we could go somewhere." He didn't make her repeat it. "Send me your location," he said. "I'll pick you up." "You don't even know where I want to go." "With you?" His voice softened. "Anywhere is fine." He heard the small, involuntary exhale she tried to hide. "Fine," she said, "but no clubs." "No clubs," he promised. "I have a better idea." He took her to a rooftop restaurant that wasn't on any obvious lists. Soft lights, open air, a clean view of the skyline. Not flashy, not loud, just quiet enough for two people to hear each other. She stepped out of the elevator and looked around with wide eyes. "Okay," she said. "I'll admit it. This is nice." He smiled, a real one. "I'm glad." They ate slowly, talking about ordinary things. Her job, his supposed import business that he kept vague but harmless, her favorite late-night snacks, his habit of working until sunrise. He asked questions like he had time for every answer. She asked her own, testing little boundaries, seeing what he'd dodge and what he'd face. When the plates were cleared and the city grew darker, they moved to the edge of the rooftop, looking out over the lights. The wind tugged gently at her hair. He watched the way she hugged her arms against the evening chill. "Cold?" he asked. A little. Without a word, he shrugged off his jacket and placed it over her shoulders. He didn't let his hands linger. He didn't step closer than she allowed. Still, the warmth of the fabric felt like more than just a jacket. You know, Ava said quietly, I keep telling myself I should walk away from this. I know, he replied. And then you do something like this, and it feels easy. I want it to feel easy, he said. You have enough weight in other parts of your life. I don't want to be another burden. You're not, she said, surprising herself with how quickly the answer came. You're complicated, but not a burden. He turned slightly, studying her profile. Ava, he said, if I ever become a burden, I want you to tell me. Not quietly, not later. Right away. You think you can handle that? I'd rather hear the truth, he replied, than watch you quietly fade away. Her heart clenched at that. She turned to face him fully now, the rooftop lights reflected in his eyes. Do you always talk like this? She asked. Plain, direct. Not with most people, he said. Most people don't deserve it. And I do? Yes. Her fingers tightened around the edge of his jacket. Why? She whispered. Because you looked me in the eye in the middle of my own world and told me no, he said. And you haven't stopped telling me the truth since. Her breath came a little faster. For the first time since she met him, it didn't feel like she was standing in front of a stranger with too much power. It felt like she was standing in front of a man who was trying, clumsily but honestly, to be worthy of her time. His hand lifted slightly, then stopped. Can I ask you something? He said. You're already asking, she replied, but her voice was softer now. Can I kiss you? He asked. The question hung between them, simple but heavy. He waited, no leaning in, no assumption. Just a man asking a woman for permission. Ava's heart pounded, not from fear, from everything else. Yes, she said. He stepped closer slowly, one hand sliding around her waist but not pulling. Just resting, warm and solid. His other hand hovered near her face, close enough for her to feel the heat of his palm, not close enough to trap. He waited for her to close the distance. She did. Their lips met in a kiss that wasn't rushed. It wasn't desperate. It was steady, deliberate, like he wanted her to feel every part of it and nothing else. Her fingers curled into his shirt. His breath deepened, but he kept his control. When he pulled back, he rested his forehead lightly against hers. Tell me if this ever feels wrong, he murmured. She swallowed. It doesn't. Good, he said, because I haven't wanted something this badly in a long time. She smiled, small and honest. The moment felt almost normal, almost simple, almost like two people on a rooftop learning how to fall for each other in a city that never noticed. Until her phone buzzed again. She stiffened. He felt it. Answer it, he said quietly. She stepped back, pulled the phone from her pocket, and looked at the screen. No name. Same unknown number. Unknown. He doesn't belong in your life. Her stomach dropped. She lifted her eyes to his. Same number. His face hardened, not with anger at her, but with cold focus. Give it to me, he said. She handed it over without arguing this time. He stared at the words, then typed a reply before she could stop him. Marco. She decides who belongs in her life, not you. He hit send. Ava's pulse rushed. Was that smart? She asked. No, Marco said. It was honest. The 3 dots blinked on the screen. Both of them watched. A new message appeared. Unknown. Then you should tell her who you really are. The rooftop felt smaller. Ava looked at him slowly. Who are you, Marco? He held her gaze. The time for half-truths had just ended. And if he didn't answer now, he knew he might lose the one person who ever made him want to be more than a name people whispered in the dark. Ava didn't speak for several seconds after the message lit up Marco's phone. Then you should tell her who you really are. The rooftop restaurant suddenly felt too quiet. The soft music in the background was distant, and the skyline lights felt colder than they should. Marco didn't look away from her, Not even once. He had promised honesty, and now the moment had come. Ava, he said slowly, before anything else, you need to know one thing. I've never lied to you. Not once. That doesn't mean you told me the whole truth, she said softly. No, he admitted. It doesn't. She crossed her arms, her fingers gripping the sleeves of his jacket still draped around her shoulders. So tell me, she said. Right now. He exhaled, steady and controlled. I'm part of a powerful family in New York, a complicated one. I handle business that doesn't always appear clean from the outside. That's vague, Marco. It's as direct as I can say it without dragging you deeper. Ava held his gaze. You're not just part of it. You're the head of it. He didn't respond immediately, but silence was an answer. Ava's breath trembled. So it's true. The rumors. Your reputation. Everything I tried to tell myself wasn't real. Marco stepped closer, but he didn't touch her. It's not like the movies, he said. I don't run around hurting people or throwing threats like confetti. I built a system, one that keeps chaos out of this city more than it causes it. You're still a Mafia boss. He winced at the word, not because she said it wrong, but because he heard disappointment behind it. I am, he said quietly. But I don't want that to define what I can be with you. She ran a hand through her hair, overwhelmed and trying not to show it. Marco, this is huge. I'm not prepared for this kind of truth. Neither was I, he said softly. Until you. Her chest tightened. He continued. I've never brought anyone into my life like this. Never let anyone question me, tell me no, or push me back. I don't want you to be part of the dangerous side. I want... He stopped himself. What do you want? She asked gently. Marco swallowed, and when he looked at her, the honesty in his eyes was enough to shake her. Something normal, he said. Something real. Something I never had before. Ava's heart clenched painfully, but before she could answer, his phone buzzed again. He looked down. A new message. Same number. Unknown. Check her building entrance. Right now. Ava froze. Marco, what does that mean? He didn't reply. He grabbed her hand. Come with me. The drive back to her building was fast but controlled. Marco didn't break laws, not tonight, but his tension filled every inch of the car. Ava stayed silent, watching him with worry instead of fear. When they reached her block, he slowed the car and scanned the street carefully. At first, Ava saw nothing. Just her building, the steps. A street lamp flickering, a delivery guy across the road, a car idling too long near the corner. Marco's hand tightened around the steering wheel. He parked. Stay here, he said. No, she replied immediately. You're not leaving me alone in this car with someone threatening both of us. Ava. No. He looked at her, and she saw something she hadn't seen before. Not dominance, not possessiveness, something close to fear. Not for himself, for her. He opened his door. All right, stay behind me. Ava followed, staying close. They walked toward the entrance of her building. Everything looked normal, until they reached the door. Her nameplate, small, metal, next to the buzzer, had been scratched. Not randomly, deep, deliberate scratches forming an X. Ava's breath caught. Marco. He stepped in front of her instantly, blocking her view, but she pushed past him. Who would do this? She whispered. Someone who wants to intimidate, Marco said. Not hurt. If they wanted danger, they wouldn't announce themselves. That's supposed to make me feel better? No, he said gently. It's supposed to tell you this isn't your fault. This is someone trying to get my attention, not yours. She turned to him, eyes tightening. Then why drag me into it? That's exactly what I'm trying to prevent. His phone buzzed again. He swore under his breath and lifted it. Unknown. She deserved the truth. Now she knows what loving you costs. Ava read the message over his shoulder and stepped back. Loving you? She echoed. We're not. Marco grabbed her arm gently. That's them trying to control the narrative. Don't let them. Her heartbeat was fast and uneven. She pointed at the door. They were here, at my home, Yes, Marco said, voice calm but firm. And they won't be again. How can you be sure? Because I'm going to fix this, he said. Tonight. Marco. He cupped her face with both hands. Soft. Careful. His thumbs rested near her jawline like she might break if he moved too fast. You are not a pawn in this, he said. You are not leverage. You are not their message board. Her breath shakily escaped. You shouldn't touch me right now, she whispered. I'm overwhelmed. He pulled his hands back immediately. Sorry. She didn't move away, though. Just inhaled, steadying herself. I need a minute. I need to think. Marco nodded. Take your time. And you're not leaving, she said. I wasn't planning to. She searched his face again. You're too calm. Because panic won't help you, he said. But action will. What are you going to do? She asked. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked to her car door and opened it. Get inside, he said gently. You're not staying here tonight. Ava stiffened. Where am I going? My penthouse, he said simply. It's safer. Controlled. No one gets in without going through 3 layers of security. No, she said quickly. That's too fast. Too much. We're not. It's not about us, he said. It's about your safety. Just for tonight. That's what every man says before they take over a woman's life. And I'm not every man, he replied. You tell me to stop tomorrow, I stop. You tell me you want space, I'll give you a mile. But I'm not letting you sleep here with someone marking your door like a threat. Ava swallowed. He was right. She knew he was right. And as much as her instincts screamed to keep distance, something inside her softened, remembering the rooftop kiss, the sincerity in his eyes, the way he never pushed when she said no. Okay, she whispered. Tonight. Relief flickered through Marco's face so fast she almost missed it. He opened the passenger door. Ava hesitated. Marco? Yes? Don't do anything reckless, she said. Define reckless, he said. Anything involving the person texting you. His jaw flexed. She stepped closer and touched his wrist lightly. I'm serious, she said softly. No ambush, no threats, no disappearing for hours to handle this alone. Promise me. He stared at her long enough for her chest to tighten. Then he said, I promise. Ava let out the breath she'd been holding and got into the car. Marco closed the door gently, walked around to the driver's side and got in. He glanced at her once more before starting the engine. You're with me now, he said quietly. And I'm not letting anything happen to you. She didn't answer, but she didn't look away either. Because behind the fear, behind the adrenaline, something else was growing. Something warm, something real, something she wasn't ready to name yet. The car pulled away from the curb. Her building faded in the rearview mirror. The city lights reflected in her eyes as she stared ahead. A new message appeared on Marco's phone. He didn't open it, but the preview lit up the screen. Unknown. Bringing her home won't protect her. It only shows how much she matters to you. Ava didn't see it. Marco did. And for the first time that night, a chill ran down his spine. Not because she was in danger, but because someone out there understood exactly what she was becoming to him, and the truth terrified him more than any enemy ever had. Marco's building rose over the city like a glass wall. Ava had seen it from a distance before, glowing at night, one of those places that looked like it only existed for people whose lives were nothing like hers. Now she was inside the elevator, watching the numbers climb, wearing his jacket and trying to control her breathing. He stood beside her, close but not touching. The air between them was full of things neither of them knew how to say yet. Last chance to run, he said quietly, eyes on the doors. When they open, you step into my space. It's a lot. She glanced up at him. If I wanted to run, I wouldn't be in this elevator. A small, soft smile touched his mouth. Fair. The doors slid open. His penthouse was wide and bright, even at night. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city lights. The floors were clean and dark. The furniture was modern but not cold. Soft couches, warm light from lamps instead of harsh overhead beams. It didn't look like a cage. It looked like a place someone tried to make feel like a home. Ava stepped inside slowly, eyes taking everything in. She noticed the little details: a jacket carelessly thrown over a chair, an unfinished glass of water on the coffee table, a book face down on the arm of the couch. "Barely any art?" she murmured. Marco arched a brow. "That's your first note." "You have all this wall and nothing on it," she said, walking closer to a bare space. "It looks expensive, but lonely." He watched her move with a strange feeling in his chest. "It wasn't supposed to be lonely," he said. "It just ended up that way." She turned to him. "And now?" "Now it has you in it," he said simply. "So by definition, it's less lonely." Her heart stumbled a little. "Careful," she said. "You talk like that and I might forget I'm mad about the door thing." "You're allowed to be mad," he replied. "I'm furious." "Furious enough to break your promise?" she asked. He shook his head. "No, I told you I wouldn't do anything reckless. I meant it. I'll handle this smart." She searched his face, then nodded once. "Okay," she said softly. "So what happens now?" "Now," he said, "you eat something, take a hot shower, and try to sleep. You've had a long day. I'll have my men sweep your building again and pull the security footage. And I'll stay out here. You can have the guest room." "Guest room," she repeated. "How many women have you said that to?" "None," he said without hesitation. "You're the first person who has stayed here for something that isn't a business meeting. I'm still figuring out the guest ritual." She studied him for a second longer, then believed him. "Show me," she said. He led her down a short hallway. The guest room was simple but comfortable. A large bed with clean white sheets, a soft rug, a chair in the corner, a door that connected to a private bathroom with a huge shower and folded towels. Ava stepped inside and touched the edge of the bed. "This is bigger than my entire apartment," she muttered. "You're exaggerating," he said. "Barely." He leaned against the doorframe, giving her space. "There are cameras in the common areas of the building," he said. "Not in here. No surveillance inside the bedrooms or bathrooms. I don't watch people sleep." "That's good," she said, "because that would be creepy." He gave a short laugh. "Agreed." Her expression softened. "Thank you. For bringing me here. For not turning this into something else." "Ava," he said, his tone low and sincere, "I brought you here to keep you safe, not to use your fear as an excuse to cross lines. If at any point you feel uncomfortable, you tell me. I stop. No questions. No games." Her chest warmed at that. "I believe you," she said quietly. He nodded once, then pushed off the frame. "I'll get you something to wear," he said. "And food. Marco?" He paused in the hall and looked back. "Yes? I don't want to be alone while I eat," she admitted. "Not tonight." "Then you won't be," he said. "We'll eat in the living room. After that, you decide how much company you want." He found one of his soft black t-shirts and a pair of clean joggers and left them folded on the bed. She smiled a little when she saw them. His clothes looked huge on her, but the fabric felt warm and safe. The hot shower helped. The water washed away the sweat from the club, the rooftop chill, the cold feeling from seeing her scratched nameplate. By the time she stepped out and slipped into his clothes, her body felt a little calmer. Her mind, not so much. When she walked back into the living room, he was in the kitchen area, sleeves rolled up, moving with efficient motions. "You cook?" she asked, surprised. "I feed myself," he corrected. Cooking might be a strong word. Still, the smell of garlic and butter filled the space. He slid a plate onto the counter, a simple dish of pasta with grilled chicken and vegetables, nothing fancy, but fresh and warm. "I was expecting takeout from some fancy place," she said. "Most fancy places close earlier than my appetite," he replied. "Sit." They ate at the large kitchen island, side by side, the city window spreading out in front of them. For a few minutes, they just ate. No heavy conversation, No talk about threats or unknown numbers. Just two people sharing food after an intense night. This is good, she said between bites. I have witnesses, he said. My men argue over who gets the leftovers sometimes. You cook for them too? Sometimes, when we work late. When I want them to remember they work with a person, not a name on a door. She chewed slowly, thinking about that. You keep surprising me, she said. I hope in the right direction. So far, she said. We'll see. He smiled slightly, then grew serious again. Ryan has someone checking the footage near your building, he said. We'll know more by tomorrow. And if it's someone you know, she asked. Then I will deal with them, he said, without involving you, without drama, quietly. You always say quietly like you're trying to convince yourself, she said softly. He let out a breath, almost a laugh. You notice everything. That's why this is hard, she said. I see the man who cooks for his men and gives me his jacket. And I also see the man someone thinks is dangerous enough to send warnings about. You're not wrong, he said. So which man am I having dinner with? She asked. He didn't hesitate. The one who wants to take care of you, he said, even if you walk away after all of this. Her fork paused halfway to her mouth. That sounds like unconditional, she said. And you don't seem like the unconditional type. I'm not, he said. Until now. Silence wrapped around them for a few long, honest seconds. Then she placed the fork down. Can we make a deal? She asked. I'm listening. You don't keep me in the dark, she said. Not about things that directly touch my life. If someone scratches my door again, I want to know. If there's a threat, I want to at least understand the shape of it. I don't want to be protected like a blindfolded child. He nodded slowly. That's fair. And in return, she continued, I don't assume the worst of you every time something happens. I ask first. I don't just cut you off without letting you explain. Something eased in his face. That sounds more than fair, he said. I can live with that. She held out her hand. He looked at it, then shook it gently, holding her gaze. Deal, he said. Her fingers lingered in his for a second longer than necessary. Deal, she echoed. Later they moved to the couch. He handed her a soft blanket, then sat on the other end, giving her space while still staying nearby. The TV was on, low, playing some late-night movie neither of them really watched. It was just background, something normal in a night that was anything but. At one point she shifted and pulled her legs up, wrapping the blanket tighter around herself. You're tired, he said. I'm wired, she corrected. My body is tired. My brain is loud. He turned slightly to face her. Talk to me. About what? Whatever is loud. She hesitated, then shrugged. I keep seeing that X on my door. I keep hearing that line. Now she knows what loving you costs. I don't even know if I, feel that. But someone thinks they can define what I feel before I even get there. His jaw tightened. They don't get to write that story for you. She met his eyes. And you don't either. He nodded. Agreed. Good, she said softly. Because if any of this is going to be real, I need to know I still have choices. You do, he said. Even if my choice is to leave, she tested. He swallowed once, but his answer was steady. Yes, that can't be easy to say. It's not, he admitted. But wanting you here doesn't mean owning you. It means hoping you stay, and respecting you if you don't. Something in her chest loosened at that. She shifted closer without fully realizing it. You know what's strange, she said. I should be more afraid right now. Someone scratched my door. Someone is sending messages. I'm in a Mafia boss's penthouse, wearing his clothes, sitting on his couch. When you say it like that, he said, it sounds worse than it feels. She laughed softly. Exactly. It doesn't feel like a crime movie. It feels like, I don't know, like I stumbled into the middle of someone else's big messy life. And I'm not sure I hate being here, she admitted. His breath caught, almost imperceptibly. Come here, he said quietly. She looked at him. Only if you want, he added quickly. I just don't like seeing you curl into yourself like that when you've had a day like this. Her body argued with her brain for a full second. Then she moved closer. He lifted his arm, and she slid into the space against his side, her head resting lightly against his shoulder. His arm settled around her, heavy and warm, careful not to hold too tightly. Her body relaxed almost immediately. This is dangerous, she murmured. In what way? He asked. It feels safe, she said. He paused, then pressed a kiss to the top of her head. That's all I want it to feel like, he said. Safe, with me. She closed her eyes. They stayed like that for a long time. No big speeches, no dramatic music, just steady breathing, the faint sound of the TV, the hum of the city below. At some point her hand slid down his chest, fingers resting over his heart. It beat hard and steady under her palm. Marco? She whispered. Yes? If this becomes real, she said, if I really let myself fall for you, you can't use that against me. You can't turn it into a chain. I won't, he said instantly. You say that now. I say that because it's true, he replied. I don't want a prisoner. I want a partner. The word hung in the air between them. Partner, she repeated. Yes. She opened her eyes and tilted her head up to look at him. Then start proving it, she said. How? Let me help, she said. Not with your business. I don't want that, but with this threat. With how we respond. Tell me what you know. Tell me who you suspect. Let me be someone you talk to, not someone you shield from everything. Marco studied her for a long second. You're not a piece on the board, he said. I know, she replied, but I am the person they chose to scare. Ignoring that doesn't make me safer. It just keeps me in the dark. He exhaled slowly. Donovan is my first suspect, he said. He has motive, he has access, and he enjoys mind games more than he should. Does he know about me? She asked. He saw me watching you at the club, Marco said. He knows you matter, even if he doesn't know how much yet. Her pulse jumped. How much do I matter? He didn't look away. Too much, he said simply. Her chest tightened, but not with fear this time. Okay, she said. So what's the plan? Plan A, he said. We find proof. We trace the number, cross it with camera footage, and handle whoever is behind it quietly. We don't answer any more messages. We don't show fear. And Plan B? She asked. There is no Plan B, he said. I don't let them get close enough to need one. She rolled her eyes lightly. Spoken like a man who thinks he can control everything. I know I can't control you, he said. That's a start. She smiled. Small but real. He looked down at her, his hand still drawing slow, absent circles on her arm under the blanket. Are you scared of me? He asked suddenly. She thought about it honestly. Not in the way you think, she said. I'm scared of what you make me feel. I'm scared of how easy it is to trust you when I really shouldn't. I'm scared of waking up one day and realizing I built my life around a man whose world could crush mine in one bad night. He swallowed. But you're not scared of me hurting you, he said. She shook her head. No, she said. You could have hurt me a dozen different ways already. You didn't. You listened when I said no. You apologized when you messed up. You told me the truth when it would have been easier to lie. That doesn't mean you're perfect. It just means I believe you're trying. He rested his cheek gently against her hair. I am, he said. For you I am. Her chest warmed. Don't say things like that unless you mean them, she whispered. I don't waste words with you, he answered. He felt her relax fully against him at that. Minutes stretched into an hour. At some point, the TV turned into background noise. Her breathing grew slower, her body heavier against his side. Ava, he murmured, you're falling asleep. She said, comfortable. He smiled softly. I should carry you to bed, he said. That sounds very movie-like. she replied, eyes still closed. I can just wake you, he offered. She opened one eye. If you carry me to the guest room and don't use it as an excuse to crawl in after, I'll allow it, she said. He chuckled. Deal. He slid one arm under her knees and the other around her back, lifting her gently. She instinctively wrapped her arms around his neck, head resting against his shoulder. He carried her down the hall and laid her on the bed as carefully as if she were breakable glass. She blinked up at him sleepily. Stay, she murmured, just until I fall asleep. On top of the bed, over the blanket, very pure. He smiled, the kind of smile no one in his world ever saw from him. Very pure, he agreed. He lay down on top of the blanket beside her, one arm around her waist, keeping a respectful distance while still making sure she could feel he was there. Her fingers found his shirt and held on lightly. Marco? Her voice was faint now. Yes. Don't disappear tomorrow, she whispered. Even if things get messy. I won't, he said. Promise? I promise. Her eyes finally closed fully. He watched her for a long time, listening to the steady rhythm of her breathing. The chaos of his life felt far away with her there, clutching his shirt like he was the safe place instead of the danger. His phone vibrated once on the nightstand. He reached for it carefully so he wouldn't wake her. A message from Ryan. We have something. The camera caught a figure near her door an hour before you arrived. Hood up. Build looks a lot like Donovan's driver. Want me to move? Marco looked at Ava sleeping beside him. He typed back. No, not yet. Keep watching. We do this clean. No noise. No mistakes. He put the phone face down. Then he pulled her a little closer and closed his eyes. For the first time in years, he didn't fall asleep thinking about numbers, deals, or enemies. He fell asleep thinking about a woman in a green sequin dress who had pushed his hand away, and somehow ended up holding his heart instead. Ava woke before the sun. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Soft sheets, a warm weight behind her, a steady breath brushing the back of her neck. Then memory returned slowly. The rooftop, the messages, the scratched door, the dinner in his penthouse, his arms around her as she fell asleep. She shifted slightly. Marco stirred immediately. You awake? He murmured, voice low and rough from sleep. She nodded. Yeah. What time is it? Too early, he said. The city is still asleep. You should be too. She rolled onto her back and met his eyes. You stayed. I told you I would, he said. Her chest warmed at that. She expected him to slip away in the middle of the night to handle whatever his world demanded. She expected shadows, secrets, silence. Instead, he stayed exactly where she left him. Thank you, she whispered. He brushed her cheek with his thumb. Sleep okay? I did, she said. Better than I thought I would. I'm glad. She studied him for a long second, the softness in his face, the morning calm that didn't match the man she'd met in a crowded club. Did anything happen overnight? She asked. He shook his head. No messages, no movement near your building. Ryan is still watching. And you're not going after anyone, right? I keep my promises, he said. She let out a breath. Good. But he could tell something else was bothersome. What's wrong? He asked gently. I don't want to live like this, she said, afraid that someone will use me to get to you. You won't, he assured. Not if we handle this right. She sat up, tucking her knees to her chest. So what's the plan? He pushed himself up beside her. Simple. We catch whoever is behind this. Cleanly. Legally, if possible. She blinked. Legally? He gave a small shrug. Contrary to what people think, legality is sometimes the simplest solution. If Donovan's driver did this, there are ways to deal with him without turning it into a war. You're serious, she said. You'd go through the legal system. For you? Yes, he said without hesitation. My pride isn't worth risking your peace. Ava stared at him, stunned at the shift. You know, she said softly, I never imagined you'd be the kind of man who'd bend for someone. Only for you, he said. Her heart thudded. Marco, don't. That's not pressure, he added quickly. It's just the truth. She inhaled slowly. Okay, so what do we do first? You go home, he said. Get ready for your day. Ryan will follow discreetly from a distance, not in a way you'll see. Will I see you later? She asked. If you want to, he said. She looked down at her hands. I do. That small admission felt like a thread pulling them tighter. He kissed her forehead gently, slow and careful, like he was still afraid to push too far. I'll take you home, he murmured. Let me keep you close a little longer. The morning was crisp as they drove back to her building. The street looked normal again, quiet, calm, harmless, except for the faint scratch marks still on her nameplate. Ava's stomach twisted. I hate that this is real. So do I, Marco said. As they approached the entrance, she noticed a small security camera blinking softly. Did you install that? She asked. He shook his head. Your building had it already. They just never fixed the angle. I had someone adjust it last night. That's allowed? She asked. I asked, he said. The super wasn't going to argue. She wanted to roll her eyes, but a smile slipped out instead. You're impossible. You say that like it's a bad thing. It is, she said, and somehow not. He walked her to her door, hands in his pockets, giving her the space she needed. I'll call you later, he said. Call, she said. Not show up. He smirked. Understood. She stepped inside, then turned back. Marco? Yes? You don't have to wait for permission to check on me, she said softly. Just don't overwhelm me either. He nodded once, something warm softening his eyes. Thank you, he said, for letting me stay in this. She closed the door gently and leaned against it after it clicked shut. For the first time, she realized something important. She wasn't falling into his world. He was slowly stepping into hers. The next week unfolded with unexpected normalcy. Ava worked. She met friends for lunch. She went to the gym. She tried new recipes in her tiny kitchen that always ended with her laughing at the mess. Marco didn't hover. He texted. He called. He asked about her day. He stayed present without suffocating her. They saw each other 3 times. Once for coffee at the same cafe where the messages began. Once for dinner at her favorite place, a small family-owned restaurant he'd never been to. Once for a quiet walk at night along the Hudson, where they held hands without talking much. With every meeting, she saw more of him. More softness, more humor, more sincerity. He listened when she talked. He remembered the little things she said. He noticed when she was tired or stressed and found subtle ways to ease it. And he kept his promise. No reckless moves, no intimidation, no chaos. Meanwhile, his men quietly followed the trail of the burner phone. 2 nights after the rooftop, Ryan called Marco. We found him, Ryan said. Donovan's driver. He bought the phone, used it, went near her building. Proof? Marco asked. Camera footage, and he didn't hide his face. Marco felt anger hit him hard, but not the old kind. This one was sharper, cleaner, focused. Bring him in, Marco said. No violence? Ryan asked carefully. None, Marco said. We handle this the right way. Later that night, Marco sat across from Donovan's driver in a dim, quiet office inside one of his legitimate businesses. Ryan stood near the wall, arms crossed. The man looked nervous. You targeted a woman, Marco said calmly. You scratched her door. You sent those messages. The man looked down. It wasn't supposed to be a big deal. Marco leaned forward. Speak clearly. I just heard Donovan talking. He said you were distracted lately. Said whoever you were seeing must be something special. I thought maybe, You thought you'd help him, Marco asked. Just a message, just to shake her a little. Marco's voice stayed steady. Do you know what shaking someone feels like to the person actually being targeted? The man swallowed. I guess. I didn't think about it. No, Marco said. You didn't. He stood slowly. Ryan, call the police. Both men looked up sharply. Marco, the driver started. You trespassed, Marco said. You defaced property. You sent threatening messages to a woman who has nothing to do with my world. You'll deal with the consequences. The driver's face paled. You're turning me in? Yes, Marco said simply. You wanted to play games. Now you play them in a courtroom. Ryan's expression didn't change, but his eyes flicked with surprise. Boss, he said quietly. That's new. Marco didn't respond. He only knew one thing. He wasn't letting Ava live with ghosts at her door. When Marco told her the next day, she stared at him for a long time. You did what? She whispered. I turned him in, he repeated. Not for me, for you. Her throat tightened. I didn't think you'd handle it like that. I told you I wouldn't drag you deeper, he said. And I mean that. She stepped closer. You changed your entire way of handling things, she said softly. For me. Yes. Why? His answer was quiet. Because I don't want to build something with you on top of fear. Her heart thudded painfully. He held her gaze. And because losing you terrifies me way more than doing things differently. She stared at him, overwhelmed in a way that felt warm instead of heavy. Then she reached for his hand. Marco, she whispered, I think I'm falling for you. He closed his eyes for a heartbeat, then opened them with a softness she had never seen in him. I fell the moment you pushed me away in that club, he said. It just took me a while to understand what that meant. She smiled, real and bright. Come here, he said. She stepped into his arms without hesitation. He held her like she was something precious, not fragile, but important. Their lips met in a kiss that wasn't rushed, wasn't hesitant. It was the kiss of two people choosing each other fully for the first time. When they pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers. You're safe, he murmured, with me, not because you hide in my world, but because I'm learning how to live in yours. She let out a shaky breath. I want a real future with you. You'll have it, he said. I'll build it with you, brick by brick. And no secrets, she added. No secrets. And no disappearing. No disappearing, he promised. And you keep cooking for me, he smiled. Absolutely. She laughed softly and leaned into him. For the first time since this entire storm began, Ava felt something settle in her chest, something steady and warm. A future. 6 months later, Ava stood in the kitchen of Marco's penthouse in one of his shirts, stirring pancake batter while he wrapped his arms around her from behind and kissed her shoulder. You're distracting, she said. You like it, he replied, nuzzling her neck. She laughed, leaning back into him. The scratched door on her old building had been replaced. She had moved into Marco's place a month ago. Not because she needed safety, but because they both agreed they didn't want to live apart anymore. Their mornings looked like this now, his arms, her laughter. A kitchen finally used for more than late-night cooking. Do you ever think about that night at the club? She asked. Every day, he said. It changed everything. You mean because I rejected you? Yes, he said. It was the best thing you ever did to me. She smiled and kissed him softly. We're okay, right? She asked quietly. Even with your world, your business, your responsibilities? He touched her cheek gently. My world is safer with you in it. My decisions are smarter. My nights are calmer. I didn't lose anything. I gained something I didn't know I needed. And what's that? She whispered. A partner, he said. Her chest warmed. He kissed her again, slow and loving. And one day, when you want it, maybe more. More? She echoed. A home together, he said. A future, whatever you want. I'm yours. Her eyes softened. Good, because I'm yours too. He lifted her into his arms and carried her to the table where breakfast waited. And the city outside, once cold and distant, felt like theirs now. Together, equal, loved, safe. Ava had walked into a nightclub wanting nothing but fun. She walked out with the heart of the man no one dared to touch. And in the end, the woman in the green sequin dress didn't just make the Mafia boss obsessed. She made him better. She made him hers. If you enjoy stories like this, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. That's how I'll know you truly liked it. Even if you're watching on your TV, grab a second to join this family of fans who love emotional and heartfelt stories. Your support means everything, and it helps us bring you even more tales like this one.